for the audio will be ready to go.
So lively discussion.
Very. There we go.
Well, welcome everybody to this meeting of Human Rights Commission. It is April 9th and it is 6:03. Can we bring our meeting to order? We should invest in making a gavel.
We should, that would be
That's a
fun.
top
Just
city
just bring one.
Top city
Just
priority.
tomorrow.
Right, yeah. Actually, I can just,
I have several actually.
welcome, guests, new and old. Thank you for being here. We usually go around and do introductions. So if you feel comfortable, give your name, your affiliation with the commission, whether you're a guest or a staff person or a member. And we often give our awards as well, where we live here in St. So, Kelsey, I'll start with you since you're online, and then we'll come back over here in person.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Murray. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a commissioner on the Human Rights Commission. And I will pass it to the room. Joaquin, you want to go?
Sure. My name is Joaquin, and I am the chair of the Human Rights Commission, and I live in Ward 8.
I'm Gretchen. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was not.
Okay,
You're sorry.
Gretchen Bennett, staff liaison, she, her pronouns, and I'll grab the opportunity to remind everybody as we talk tonight, we'll try to introduce ourselves first, because we're moving away from the more detailed minutes to the transcript audio minutes, and it helps if we say, this is Robert, and then jump in. So just a reminder.
My name is Kara Pressey. I live in Ward 5 and I use she, her pronouns. I'm also a commissioner on this Human Rights Commission.
Christina Ballard, and I'm in Ward 7, and she, her pronouns, and I'm commissioner.
Kate Strachty, I'm a commissioner, she, her pronouns, in Ward 1.
I'm Eilish McLean. I'm a guest. I'm a student at Willamette Law. I have no idea what ward I live in, but it's in Salem.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Debbie Aguilar, she, her pronouns, and I am your police department liaison for tonight.
Robert Marshall, Vice Chair of the Human Rights Commission, use he, him pronouns, live in Ward 2.
Thank you. We cannot have a motion because we don't have quorum. So we just proceed, right?
Correct.
Okay. We're the first thing was 4A, which was the review of our recommendations from the Process Task Force, which has recently concluded its work after many months of working. Thank you for those who served on that task force. Commissioner Lynn, who chaired that task force, has yet to arrive. They're joining us at 7.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move beyond that and circle back. And I think, Deb, that brings us to you, bias crimes.
Yes.
And please join us at the table. I was kidding earlier.
Well, whatever you all prefer. I know I'm kind of weird because Kelsey can't see me, because I'm like stuck behind Robert, so.
It was a pleasant surprise when you introduced yourself.
Make myself at home. I used to be the liaison for quite a few years.
You were.
It was like 9 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an excellent job she did.
Well. Okay, so we had 2 bias incidents this last reporting period. Both ironically happened on March 22nd. The first one was a verbal argument between a white male and a black male. The white male made some racial disparaging comments towards the black male during that argument. There was no crime, however, so an officer responded, took a bias incident report, and then also referred the victim to the Oregon Department of Justice bias crime hotline. The second one was the victim, who is a Hispanic male, said that he found several marks on his car that were racially derogatory, and also had found his tire slashed the week prior, and he didn't know who the suspect was, and really believes that it's racially motivated, but at this time doesn't know like who could have done that. So the officer did document it in a police report and also referred the victim to the bias crime hotline. That's what we have for this month.
Thank you. Any questions? I'm gonna ask one. I
Okay,
know the answer to it, but I'm gonna ask it. So we often here at the commission ask or get asked, you know, what constitutes a bias crime? And how do we think about that? And what, you know, so with our guests and the newer members. So my understanding is, you know, the slashing of the tires doesn't constitute anything because there's no intent or you can't establish motivation,
Yeah.
but the second occurrence does because.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that the reason that they wrote it up as a bias incident was because they didn't have a suspect at the time. And so they wrote it as a bias incident. Once they find a suspect and are able to develop probable cause to arrest them for a bias crime, then they would categorize it as a bias crime. And so the way that we would report that is right now for bias incidents, we just take it as a police report and we track it through the city. But if we were to find a suspect and were to investigate and determine that there was bias motivation, then on the charges that we would apply to the suspect, we would mark a little box that says bias crime, and then that would get forwarded to the FBI. So it's not like because we document it as a bias incident right now, it couldn't later be a bias crime and then be tracked federally. So I'm going to assume, although I have just this piece of paper to go on, I'm going to assume that that was the reasoning behind it.
And thank you.
Yeah.
And kind of maybe add another layer of point. Because I'm doing this in part because we have a law student here. You know, so if you know, if a brown man or a black man gets harassed, it isn't necessarily a bias crime
Correct.
unless
there's a crime, right, there has to be a crime attached to it, so just
but the intent,
verbally,
yeah.
right, yeah, so verbally using derogatory language towards each other wouldn't be considered a bias crime. But if there was some kind of like here crime damage, and we can link it to that there's some kind of bias motivation, that the reason even particularly for the motivation of the suspect was because they have bias, then that would constitute a bias crime.
Thank you for indulging. Welcome, Sam.
I think that some people, where they run into the issue of not being able to figure it out is understanding that just because a crime has occurred doesn't mean it's a bias crime. There
Yeah.
has to be intent,
Right.
and proving that intent is
Yeah.
often
Yeah,
difficult.
that motivation especially, so it's, bias crimes are interesting because any other crime, if I hit Gretchen, doesn't matter why, really, I hit her and you all saw me do it, and so you can arrest me for, you know, harassment or assault. But for a bias crime, if I hit Gretchen in order to prove that I hit Gretchen because of maybe her gender, you have to have like some kind of motivation. So as an officer, I have to start asking questions like, well, did I make any comments before the hitting of her that would lead to believe that that was bias? Is it, you know, a particular time of day or time of year that was significant? Was I wearing something that indicated maybe I had bias? So it is an interesting, there's a few other elements that officers have to investigate and add to their report to show, like you said, that motivation. It's hard to prove often in court. Yeah, not impossible, but more difficult.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for indulging.
Yeah, no problem.
So am I allowed to go back and ask for a motion to? approve
Yeah,
the calendar?
you sure are.
Okay,
Of course.
welcome. You made quorum, so thank you. Busy day at the county. Congratulations. Is there a motion to approve the agenda and minutes as presented?
I move to approve the minutes and the agenda, except for moving the proposed procedures process review task force till after citizenship sanctuary in chapter 97 or until Commissioner Lynn.
Is there a second for the motion as amended? Okay, and all of those in favor say aye. Great, motion passes. Thank you. Complaints of discrimination, Gretchen, that is you.
That is me. I had one during the report period, and it related to a person with a disability and public accommodations. And the person reported that they went to a place of public accommodation and found the restroom lighting to be really poor and felt that people with low vision would have difficulty being safe or exiting the space. So apparently we have cool things that can measure lights and look at light bulbs in just the right ways. I engaged the team upstairs and they went out and visited the restroom, and apparently the lighting does meet all of the legal standards. So we didn't have it was bright enough to pass legal muster, but we did share the feedback from the community that this is how a person experienced it. And so that's how we handled that one. Yeah, but that's the only one I received during the period.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hey.
All right, next is item 4D, which is Citizenship Sanctuary in Chapter 97. I think the biggest update is leadership has been having a conversation about capacity. As you know, our beloved staff person has been given a kind of a field promotion, and she's acting capacity community services director for the foreseeable future. And just entertaining that and everything else that she and others juggle here in the commission of the city, we're probably going to push that back at least until the summer, alongside other commitments that we have, just kind of managing all that there is to manage here. So we appreciate your understanding and flexibility as we figure things out here in the weeks and months ahead. Are there any questions about that? Always feel free to reach out to me. You know, I know these are sometimes not the greatest updates, but as we want to do things that are matter to people's lives, and we know that there's a lot of urgency, and certainly on this issue in particular, but we want to do them well. And so I think this allows for that. Thank you, Gretchen, for your service to the city, and everyone for bearing with us a little bit longer.
Oh, thank you all. I might add an update here if you don't mind. It occurs to me that you'd be interested to know that I had an event organizer reach out about just thoughts of, as they do events, will people feel comfortable in this space given all of the dynamics happening? And I made sure that they knew that we would be happy to be a resource if individuals who attended the event felt that they were experiencing discrimination or had some conversations with bystanders or public that included remarks that felt discriminatory. I talked about the importance of us hearing about that so that we could document it and it could be part of the picture, and that we'd be happy to take those calls and that we give them our numbers. So it kind of related into that citizenship question, because that was the source of the event's worry, is that people wouldn't feel comfortable showing up in public right now. And so I guess that's a side note there. And thanks for your grace and your patience. We're gonna really have depth on the bench, and so I appreciate the flexibility.
Should we take a beat to talk about maybe we were discussing before the meeting about how we plan for things?
Sure.
So given that capacity, you know, at the city is kind of a perennial issue, but more acute now. We've been kind of talking about the chairs were talking about what we prefer to do in certain situations. So as Gretchen just mentioned, you know, the bench is thinning and really isn't there. So what I mean by that is, you know, if the bench is tapped out and needs someone to step in, who would do that? Well, now probably nobody. And so, you know, Gretchen could spend some time finding somebody, or we could just cancel the meeting. I think the preference has been, or we were talking about before the meeting, my preference is to cancel meetings for two reasons. One, Gretchen's time is money for the city and valuable, and we want to honor that. And two, we can accomplish quite a bit outside of meetings, you know, just meeting as a need basis. And three, we already meet a lot as a commission. We meet a lot more than other peers of ours at the city. And so while it may feel like a loss to us, it's still much more than others meet. And so I think we can make do for the time being. So thank you, Gretchen, and thank you everyone for entertaining that. But I think that's really we're going to move forward at least for the next 6 months. Okay. Any questions about that?
Thank you.
All right.
Gretchen, do you have an additional agenda? Yes,
Okay,
Here she needs her.
Okay. I really thought it's okay.
Thank you.
I have a couple more. Yeah.
I will also say, and I should have said at the top of the meeting, we're gonna end early tonight, because we're being joined by our Western Oregon peers who are gonna be our peers, students in class, or peers in the Fellowship of Public Service, who are gonna help implement the survey of ours. So just remember that. If you're interested in joining that conversation, you're welcome to, you're not obligated to. Okay, community and project updates. Kate, I think you're up.
Do you mind showing your screen?
No.
No?
Oh, you?
Who? Well, well, I don't have access to the.
Yeah, and I can send it out afterwards.
Okay, sure.
So for full disclosure, this is Kate speaking. I am on the struggle bus with getting this document out on email. For whatever reason, the PDF is just, it does not want to send. And I did it in Canva. So what I will do is download it as images. I will compress the images in PowerPoint, and then I will compress the PowerPoint somehow, and we will figure it out. So I will get it to you. And right now it's a Google Drive document, and it does send, but then the city didn't want Gretchen to open the link, and so we're working through it. So
City software.
city software.
The city
Yeah,
will not
yeah.
call you. Do not.
So we met, I think as a task force, and I'm trying to remember all of the meetings. So as a task force, we made some edits. Joaquin, thank you for sending me the correct Spanish translation. So on Monday, we have a community partner presentation, and Gretchen sent out the email to our community partners. Thank you. And thank you to anyone who updated the list. That's very helpful as well. What we're going to do, and this is different this year, is send this out. Or sorry, we sent out the invite. We're going to meet with our community partners and give them a heads up that this is coming. And the survey is going out pretty soon. So it's like the week after we do this presentation, or right around that time. So it's not a lot of lead time, and we like to give them a little bit of time so they can put it in newsletters or just get it out. But it'll be in the field for about 3 weeks, so we have some time. Thank you, Joaquin. I think you pointed that out. It's really helpful though. So in the meeting, it's only about 45 minutes. We plan to do a small presentation, short presentation of like 15 minutes at most. It's not a lot of information. It's just, who are we? Why are we asking you to send out a survey? If they are not sure, maybe they're new to their position. And just give them the history of the survey, a brief history of Human Rights Commission. And so we updated a couple of things. So like we put in a graphic. I think that was your idea. Is it Christina? Christina. Okay. So we put in a graphic. Thank you, Joaquin, for sending that as well. I will clarify. So we did have 7 years of surveys. We started in 2017. We did not do every year since 2017 consecutively. So there's a couple of talking points where I have more information as I'm presenting, and then Joaquin will be there to do a quick intro, and then we'll help with questions and answers. Anyone here is welcome to join and just be like, listen in, so that if you have community questions, you can answer those, but also we will record it. We did not say that in the invite because we would like people to attend in person, but we will send it out afterwards. So there are some open-ended things in there. I wanted to verify the dates are correct. And I don't know, I think for accommodations, they probably would contact me still. I need to just double check with Marianne on that one slide, but we can do that at 7 o'clock. So I will send this out to just get last minute feedback, and then on Monday we'll do the presentation, and it is a little bit awkward timing, but it's 12:05 to 12:50, and I did that because that gives people a little bit of wiggle room around their lunchtime during the workday. So that's the plan, and that's what it looks like. So what we will do, sorry, Kelsey, sorry, I think it's Moss, I can't see over the text.
Yes.
But we will send this out and you will be able to take a look and provide feedback. Anything I missed?
Oh, thank you.
I can add, I don't remember if I told you that the Professor Bradshaw And I believe a student will be able to join
Okay.
and say a quick hello from Western and note their partnership.
That is great, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping Mary Ann can help answer very technical questions,
Yeah.
because although I took her class, it was like more than 8+ years ago, so I do not
Did you
remember
really?
everything. I did, yeah, that's when she showed up here, I was like, oh, hi, that's, I was in that class, yes.
Wow.
Also, I saw the question mark on gift cards. Professor Bradshaw was working on that.
Okay.
She had hit some questions and I don't know that I know the outcome.
Okay,
But
great,
she'll maybe know that.
thank you.
Any questions for Commissioner Strath?
She was trying to figure out how to make the presence of the term gift card not cause apparently chatbot spamming starts trying to win the gift card. She described trends with surveys and the words gift card. So she was playing with strategies and she was going to engage the students since after all, this is a survey class. So how do you protect the survey to have valid entrance into the gift card giveaway without being buried with all this baloney? So she was working on that. But the gift card is possible if they can figure out how to not make a mess. I guess it happened last year a little bit, but they were able to cleanse it. So anyway, that's what it was. I knew there was something she did. Yeah, it was interesting.
One thing I will say that I learned from my former job is that there are some words that do not translate well. Like drawing, like doing a drawing for a gift card or like something like that, or a scavenger hunt, like in some languages like German, like we do not know what you're talking about. And so that is just, as we're translating this too, if that's something that gets sent out to different communities, I think that language would be important for us to check. Yeah, good point.
Any other additional questions or comments on this update? Thank you. It's gonna be a good event on Monday
Yeah.
and a great survey. So thank you. Okay. I'm next. Okay, well, so the task force, the Disability Rights Task Force has yet to convene for the first time, but we're going to be doing that later this month, on the 21st of April. And that'll be exciting. So we're kind of working with a draft timeline and how we want to build and build out the work that we do, but a lot of that will be determined by the body itself. And so we're just really excited for that. And we know a couple people here who are going to be there. So thank you for your service on that task force, and here comes a bit. It'll be a generative exchange, I'm sure.
Is it something you're still looking for people to help with, or is it kind of
Not currently.
good set?
Yes. Yes. Sorry to say.
You're good?
But we'll see. Yeah. So thank you.
Joaquin, we
Yes.
do still have plenty of room on community engagement.
I was gonna talk to you.
Okay, great.
Way to
Just a
slip-
little quick
way to
plug.
slip that in there.
Thank you.
She talked about what potential members, but I'm still open.
So Judy, so if anybody wanted to just to join one of those committees, all they'd have to do would do what, Gretchen? Reach out to me and Gretchen, and then I would appoint them. So if that's of interest to you, just let me know.
What new member? Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was
Like, I know it's good.
Okay, Kara, do you want to?
Sure, the LGBTQIA plus task force or committee, excuse me, has, PS 4 minutes. This is Kira, sorry Gretchen. Thank you. You're welcome. We're doing continued work on the healthcare forum. We have yet to set a date for that, and it sounds like we may be pushing that back a little bit. So we'll have more information on that later. And we did have quite a few individuals join our last meeting, and that are interested. And so we'll see where that goes. That is all I have.
Any questions for?
Question, how did you source members? Is that through the newsletter type email?
So I wrote, did I write that? You did? I wrote an email just explaining who we are and that we're looking for members, and then I sent that to Gretchen. And then Gretchen sent that out to our contacts. And I believe we have it listed online too, that we have an opening, right? Yeah.
We should, and Pride as well.
Yes.
My understanding is they sent it to their folks too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can do that. We might want to, just so we feel like, I don't know, either our total. There's not many. I feel like we might need more in our committee slash task force. Committee.
And membership waxes and wanes, that's pretty natural, but it's always good to have more people. The only issue with that can be if folks aren't always committed on the time, then you can't take action, you don't have a quorum. So the larger the committee, the membership, the higher the threshold. But nothing's a problem, so anyways, okay. Maz, welcome. We have been waiting for you. May I tee you up?
Yes, please do. I am about 2 minutes away from my house, and then I'll be better suited to talk about this.
I can feel 2 minutes, no problem. Okay, so this project and effort was born out of what may be described as a tumultuous year for the Human Rights Commission. No, Kelsey says. And we had a some difficult processes, public processes that we learned a lot from, and generally walked away from the experience thinking, gosh, we want to be involved in difficult conversations in the future. We want to be a part of those. That's kind of our job in part. How do we do that better? Irrespective of the topic and whatever the case may be. So how do we do that better? Because we were building that plane as we were taking off, flying and landing or crashing, depending on who you ask. And it was not fun. And so, how do we make these sort of processes more robust for future generations of commissions, future members, in other words, of this commission. And so we had our former chair, Hermione Jackson, was part of that. Kelsey, our former vice chair, Robert, our current vice chair, myself, Kira, Ilana, and that was all. Who really volunteered to spend quite a bit of time every 2 weeks thinking about these issues, these big questions, and produced a pretty robust document that I hope all of you have had the opportunity to review. It's about 19 pages. These are procedures, guidelines, best practices that we hope do two things. One, preserve all the good that the commission is about and does well, while, as I said earlier, preparing us for difficult conversations. And so you'll see kind of two, I'm not gonna say it's siloed, but there are definitely two veins in this document. There's, on the one hand, there's what everyday kind of quotidian work meetings look like for the commission, committee meetings, general meetings, et cetera. And then what do these kind of special occasion, more formal processes look like? And so you'll be able to kind of engage with both of these different arenas. And so I'll say it later, but just thank you to everyone who participated in that. Thank you in advance for your feedback and your due diligence looking this over. And Ilana, I think that's 2 minutes.
It was, because I just shut my door, so thank you. Yeah, you did great, Joaquin. And so before I start going over this document, I do want to just share thanks for everyone who is a member of this task force. It was an incredibly long process. We had lots of debate, and I really just appreciated everyone's willingness to work on this and dedicate their time. It would not have been possible without all of you. So I am just going to quickly go over the sections of the, well, I guess we have an hour. What would the preference be? Is it that I go through each section like word for word, or would we prefer to just share comments on the specific sections? Thank you, Gretchen.
You're welcome.
Any preference? If not, then I will just go by section. And we can discuss what we see on the screen and share any comments, and I'll provide some of the logic behind why we made the decisions we did. Okay, so if we can scroll down to the agenda formatting.
I have two comments on the table of contents. We
yes.
have colons after commissioner website profiles and a colon after rule definitions and guidelines, but we do not have the colons after the other items listed on the table of contents.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I was like, looking.
Good flag. Anything else on the table of contents? No? Okay. Great. So for the agenda format, we kept it pretty consistent to what we already have, but just moved around a couple items. For example, we moved member remarks to be higher on the agenda so that way sometimes we go all the way to the last minute and then we don't have time for the member remarks or people don't feel like they have the space to share. So we wanted to make sure that would be highlighted. And as noted, it is for non-agenda items. Of course, once we get to an agenda item, you can provide your remarks then. So we just wanted a better opportunity for that. And I think that was really our only substantive change, except for add in at the very end, a secondary place for member remarks if at the chair's discretion, again, dependent on time, so that way if something comes up, we're able to discuss it again at the end if time permits. Do we have any questions or comments on the agenda format? Okay, beautiful. So then on our website profiles, this is going to be optional, but strongly encouraged to increase public awareness and transparency of who we are and, give the public a better understanding of who their Human Rights Commission members are. So we created some advisory recommendations for what we should include on our profiles. You can choose to include whatever you are comfortable with, of course, if we were to move forward with this. So we just aimed to provide a brief summary of who you are professionally, what your background is, why'd you want to join the commission, and then just fun facts about you to help people understand you as a person. And you can also choose to include your contact information if you see fit, but Gretchen is also wonderful at sharing communications with us, and so that is also another option. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns on the optional commission website profiles?
I might add a comment. If you're wondering how this came to be, I remember some of the conversation last spring related to folks just trying to discern who's on the commission, who's part of the public. And so it's part of increasing transparency about this is the commission. You'll see a couple of other themes in the document that gets there too.
What their backgrounds were,
Yeah,
what brought them to that.
sure, that too, as well as just who's on the commission and who's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of this document is in an effort to be more transparent and set expectations for members who want to, or members of the public who would like to join our meetings or engage in some way. Thank you for providing that context, Gretchen.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, well then we can move on to the next section and feel free to bring us back if you think of something later down the road. So this is regarding how we conclude our meetings. This is to help provide clarity again in what to expect and also to help our chairs have a better understanding of process and procedure. So as we discussed when going over the agenda, there is the option of final comments at the chair's discretion. And so this, can be what our usual member remarks are or other items, but it will be at the chair's discretion. Adjournment, we wanted to make sure that there weren't any public meeting laws we had to follow. And so all we have to do is declare that the meeting is adjourned. And if not, then it will require a vote to continue if members would like to unadjourn the meeting. And then it is officially closed. It's when we turn off our live streaming. And so obviously we cannot have discussions that the public would not be privy to. So that is our final stop. And then any post-meeting follow-up, we wanted to clarify what the commissioners were responsible for and what staff would be responsible for. And so those are the items we have laid out. Do I see any questions, comments, or concerns on this section?
A brief comment, if I may, is Joaquin. All this has been reviewed by legal. So if you have any questions, just know that that attention has been paid to the document. So.
This is I have a comment on section 3, post-meeting follow-ups, second sub-bullet under staff responsibilities. Do we want to entertain changing the verbiage to ensure meeting transcripts are distributed within the required time frame with the change to the way that minutes are handled during the meetings? I don't want I feel like if we wanted to change that, we might just say transcripts. That way we're just referring, because correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we just printing the transcripts from the Zoom calls and distributing those via?
Yeah, going to something different as opposed to, this is Gretchen, as opposed to the former minutes. You all might remember that. We talked about transitioning to that. I'm also interested in making just a simple, here are the actions thing to help highlight that. So I'm kind of curious to get in and play with one. But I think it would be good to generalize up that phrase. That's a great point.
I do think that would be better addressed in the first bullet point. I believe the second bullet point is separate from the transcription/minutes. It's more so regarding, like, for example, if a member were to share a calendar invite with Gretchen, she would distribute that after the meeting. That would be the documents and resources. Does that make sense? So I think if we should change it, it should say ensure meeting transcripts are drafted and distributed within the required time frame.
Yes.
But leave the second bullet point.
Yes, agreed.
Cool.
I have, this is Kate, under commissioner responsibilities, first bullet is it's supposed to have commas like review, follow-up, comma, do out task items, comma, and prepare.
Yeah.
This is Robert. Do out should also be spelled DUE in that context.
Okay.
Like items that are due.
Got
I
it.
see. I remember us having the discussion of no one had heard of the phrase do outs before. And Robert was like, I use it all the time. So that makes sense.
I think that's a different word. Confuse me.
Okay, so we will make that revision to the staff bullet points, add some commas to the commissioner responsibilities, and fix the spelling of due. Is there anything else that people would like to discuss on this matter? Okay. So this is general decorum. We wanted to make sure that commissioners had a general expectation of what the Human Rights Commission's expectations are regarding their actions and words to make sure that we are maintaining a safe and welcoming environment for all members of the public. So we drafted basically a paragraph and a half of what we think the general decorum should be, which I think is very important for us to have a common understanding of, and would like to stay on this page for a second to see if we have any feedback, any questions, concerns, etc. And I'm happy to read it aloud if that is what people would like.
This is Kate. I just want to say thank you. One point of feedback that I've had for like the city at large is just serving on like the task force and having people say like what professionalism should be is a little frustrating because like for someone who works from home most of the time, professionalism for me looks like wearing pajamas sometimes, and it just is what it is, right? So it's kind of nice, like, and I know that's still not necessarily what the first paragraph talks about, but just it looks different for everybody. So I really appreciate this, that we're not saying like you have to wear specific things, just, you know, literally just don't wear things with vulgarities on them. Like, I think that's pretty well done. So I would say good job.
Thank you. Most of that praise belongs to Kelsey and Joaquin. Go ahead, Robert.
This is Robert. Just a quick format / grammatical thing under don'ts. There's an additional bullet right before the where. So if we go down to don't, there's
under the
bullets.
do's and don'ts, Gretchen, if you scroll down.
Oh,
We'll just want to strike that.
oh, good.
Strike that bullet.
Great copy editor, I like that.
Yeah.
A line of.
Judy.
Yeah, and so then we just have the do's and singular don't also highlighted here to make sure that the paragraph also has actionable items that are easy to understand.
Last bullet point,
This
under
one?
do, we're missing the other side of the parentheses.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Kira. I believe is who that was.
Yep, sorry, I should have said that.
I'm wondering, in the vein of what Kate talked about, does the term appropriate need defining like the way the term professional needed defining? So would it, or are you comfortable with that? I don't know if it would be use a personal email address that does not contain vulgarity. Would that be more clear? That might be an idea. Or if it's fine, that's okay too, just occurring to me, the question.
I feel like since we provided examples, it's fine, but if we wanted to be more general, I do think that just saying a personal email with no vulgarities would be a fair addition.
I would opt for leaving it as is. This is Robert, if we just said use a personal email with no vulgarities, I mean, somebody could use, you know, fuzzy pink bunny slippers at gmail.com, and then we wouldn't necessarily.
No, that one's
really
taken,
know
Robert.
really know who that is. And so I think I like leaving the use an appropriate email address and then leaving the examples.
It's bunny, I can't say it, bunny.
Fuzzy pink bunny slipper.
Bunny slippers Marshall@gmail.com. Thank you. Very long.
Wonderful. Do we have any more discussion on this item?
No, I don't think so.
Wonderful. Okay, so then we just wanted to clarify the relationships between the subcommittees, task force, and other groups within the HRC. Again, just working to establish some transparency and ensure that commissioners and the public know what to expect. So for that, we outlined what we think preparation for interactions should be, such as how to schedule within the committees and other entities within the HRC, submission of materials, so all the things we would need to do prior to those meetings. And then during the meeting, we outlined what the presentation structure should be. And can we scroll down a little?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. And then also engagement with the full HRC. And so then for the decision making and follow up, so that way the subcommittees and task force, et cetera, know what to expect. We ensured that those action items would be in the meeting transcripts, and that feedback is always encouraged. As you all know, we're a very feedback oriented group, so wanted to make sure that there are as many options as possible. And then for conflict resolution, we did want to ensure that the chair is always an option as an impartial mediator, and that we are not allowed to hire or pay for third parties to provide this service. So it is a responsibility of us as commissioners to do this conflict resolution if needed.
This is Robert, under submissions of material, second bullet point. Second line, materials arrive in inaccessible formats. There's no hyphen accessible.
Oh, thank you. Copy. 7.
Waiting for somebody else. This is Christina. Under preparation for interactions, scheduling subcommittees and or task forces. Same thing under 2, presentation structure. A designated representative from the committee and or task force.
Oh. Copy.
Gretchen, I'm wondering if it would be more helpful for people to either like indicate edits on the printed copy or submit the like copy edits to you via email. I just don't know if it'll be hard to track via write-in to then the document.
I appreciate that. Anyone who is up for that and will, please send that to me, and I'm also working on taking notes here. Thank you.
In light of that, this is Judy. Under conflict resolution, the interaction between committees, task forces, and the HRC, with the and, it makes it seem like all 3 are against each other. So maybe changing and to or. So it could be any of those in conflict with one another, not all of those in conflict with one another.
Yes.
Like an and or.
Yeah, because it could, I mean, I guess it could be all of them in conflict with one another.
Gosh, for my sake, I hope not.
I do too.
This is Kira. I'm completely inconsequential, but the spacing on number 4 between the 4 and bullet is not the same as it is in the rest of the document. Again, completely not important.
But no, we want to get this right.
I don't like the color of the document.
All edits are important edits. Okay, any other discussion on this item? Okay, well, we can always come back to it. So our next one is essentially a script for the chair to use when opening the committees or task force, etc. And we specified for a general meeting, which is what we are having right now, versus a special meeting, which would be any meeting that the HRC plans outside of its general meeting with a specialized agenda topic. For example, if we were to decide to have a meeting on fuzzy bunny slippers, that would be a special meeting.
Yes, it would be.
Do we, this is Robert, do we define? I know the task force talked at length between a general meeting and a special meeting, but do we define those anywhere in the document prior to this section? Because even this section doesn't define.
I know we did define it. It obviously was not before this section and it could have been deleted. Let me quickly scroll through to see where we put it. It might be in role definitions and guidelines. Oh no, there's a whole section called special meetings at the very end, page 18.
Okay.
So we could move that to be above this section, I think would make sense.
Copy.
This is Judy, quick clarification question. Under general, the third line from the bottom, where it says where the public can share openly for up to 3 minutes, is that 3 minutes altogether, or is that 3 minutes per person?
Per person.
Okay. Because to me, at least, I read that as 3 minutes, go. As everybody's got,
So
you know,
you want
total.
to specify the,
For
yeah,
up to
Is that-
3 minutes
is that-
each.
Where each
Yeah.
person.
3
where
minutes
each
per
member of the
person?
public, where each member of the public can share openly for up to 3 minutes.
Yeah. Each member.
Yeah, we can copy the language from the special meetings where it says each member of the public is allowed, but we would say is allowed to share openly for up to 3
Yes, you
minutes.
can clarify that down in special meetings.
Okay, and then the introduction for the special meetings just, lays out the specific criteria of what the special meeting would make up. If it's public comment driven, we might change the amount of time. And it also, because most of these meetings are situations where we expect more robust public comment, we also add more details on what to expect from that.
This is Kira, under a special meeting, missing the beginning quotation.
I'm sorry?
Just under special meeting, we're missing the beginning quotation. We have the end one.
Oh, I see the quotation mark. Got it. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, then we can move on. So this one is for naming conventions. We thought that it would be helpful if members of the commission, while in person, were able to have placards that said their name and that they were a commissioner, so that it's easier to help identify them, and also helps with us remembering each other's names and members of the public remembering each other's names as new commissioners come on, etc. And then while we are on Zoom, we thought it would be helpful to use commissioner in your name, so that way you're able to be identifiable. I think those were my main points on this section, but if there are any comments, questions, concerns.
This is Robert. I think, obviously before the regular pen, I'm guessing we meant to change, removing the purpose, the track edits are still, the edits are still visible on the printed document. And
Yes, that's because it was a revision made after our last meeting, because we switched over to doing the transcription.
Yep.
And so we had to add the people shall add their speaking first. And so wanted to flag that was an addition that the task force had not originally seen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there are no other questions on this area or comments, we can move on to the next.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the Zoom part, Moss, or not.
Yeah, so if you're on Zoom, you would just add commissioner to it and pronouns if you would like. And then we included instructions on how to change your Zoom name if needed. Okay, so then for the special meetings, which another reason why we should move that section up, we wanted to make sure that people on Zoom and people in person were able to have expectations. And so we included what to expect if you are attending via Zoom. This will hopefully clear up some confusion that people might have experienced, and will also ensure that the most people get to speak in the most equitable manner possible based on when they sign up and how they would like to present. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, well then we can move on to the next section. Okay, so for public comments, we wanted to ensure that the public knew how to sign up for procedures and also so that, to sign up for public comment and also so that we can help inform the public of this. So we have the sign up procedure for how they can contact Gretchen and sign up for a sign up sheet if in person, and that public comment is always at the discretion of the chair for times spent. And then we also outlined it for what would happen if you were online.
I have a question. This is Christina. Under online meeting space, the first bullet point, individuals are expected to have cameras on when making a public comment. If we're gonna require public to do that, then I think commissioners should be required to speak with their cameras on as well.
I mean, I have no problem with the public having their camera off. Come as you can. Does anyone remember if we had a specific reason for including that?
I think this is Joaquin. Does it say require or expect?
Expected.
Yeah, which I'm comfortable with that, and I'd be happy to, prefer that commissioners do too. I think it came from a place in the course of public processes where members of the public felt that the public conversation was being manipulated by people who may not live in Salem or whose identities or perspectives they questioned or doubted. And so there was multiple refrains around, well, who are they? We can't even see them, we don't know who they are. And so I think this came from a similar place of, well, you should probably name yourself and, things of that ilk. So that's where that came from what I recall. But.
That makes sense. And it's a good flag that says expected, not required. Anyone else have discussion on this point?
On that point, this is Kira, again, completely not important. Spacing on 1
and 5.
And, oh, I gotta make it to 5 minutes. Is not the same.
Oh, because there's a gap under sign up procedure in the bullet points. And same for number 5.
Christina, under number 2, there's just one word after the 4th bullet point, moderation.
It's kind of funny.
Good rule of thumb, just moderation.
Yeah, it's moderate.
I don't remember why we had that.
It's kind of funny though.
I believe it might have been one of those, like, you accept an edit and it doesn't work out the way you expected. I believe that we said that there would be a moderator online. Or like moderation will be done by someone, and then we're advised to remove it. And I think that just one word was not removed.
Yeah, so we'll just strike that bullet point.
Unless anyone else can think of a reason it was there. That's just my recollection.
This is Kate. For number 3, it just, the title doesn't follow the format of the others. As a recommendation, we could just call that section facilitation. Potentially, and then put the sentence as the next segment down. Next line down.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
I want to make sure I caught that. So we would change the title to the word facilitate. Oh, and then this sentence would just be unbolded and then line down. Copy, thank you.
Yeah, facilitate or facilitation, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think facilitation makes sense.
There's something that took some discussion.
Yeah.
We had people who wanted to talk again.
Yeah, keeping it one comment per person helps with the keep public comment from turning into public debate, which is not the intent. And so that was to help with that issue.
This is Kate. Do we ask or say anywhere that they could follow up in writing, like as an alternative?
They always could. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Does that show up?
I do think that in our public comment section, it says that you can submit written comments to staff, but not 100% sure on that.
Would you like something added underneath? Well, no, that's the purpose of the procedure section. I'm sorry for the fast scrolling. I'm checking to see. Do you want to add a number 10? Public comment may all multiple public or you'll accept multiple pieces of public comment in written format or something?
I mean, I would just say that public comment is always welcome or written public comment is always welcome before meetings or after meetings.
This is
And then
Judy.
people can provide whatever they would like.
This is Judy. It could just be added at the end of 5, where we're talking about it being able to extend it, the discretion of the chair, and just add another sentence that says, and it's something about anything not covered, feel free to submit to, you know, if we don't want to add a whole nother section.
Good.
This is Christina. That might bring it, that probably have to run that by legal though. Because if we're registering items as public comment and they're being submitted written, wouldn't they have to be read in?
No, they can just be posted.
Yeah.
It hasn't been our experience as long as it gets into your hands.
Okay.
Like for example, at city council, quite a few written pieces of public comment get added and posted
Okay.
and the council gets to see it. You're pointing out to me though that what we don't have, I don't think right now, is a routine of publishing the written comment that you receive. You get it. We always make sure you get it, but I don't think we take that extra step of written public comment getting published, and that's an interesting question, so I need to poke around on that for a minute, which I
Yes.
do.
For some people,
Yeah.
having, utilizing public comment period at public meetings is so they can have their voice heard, not just by the body they're addressing, but by
Yeah,
everyone else.
yeah, that's a good catch. So for example, we could accomplish that by batching and putting on the website, for example, so that there's a way. Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, most boards and whatnots that I follow will post it under the meeting link. So they'll post a link
Yeah.
to join the Zoom or watch the YouTube. And then they'll include the agenda and public comment received. Not that we often receive written comments.
No, and I believe we edit our city council link, city council meetings link to do that. For example, we batch and then attach at the city council level. So thank you.
And I think this is what, I think we can expect to receive written comment for, say, special meeting.
Yeah,
That should be an expectation.
yeah.
This is Kate for, or do we have anything else to add on that one? Okay. For 6, I wonder if one, it could be out of order, but 2, I also wonder if we could say like, we're going to put this in a parking lot and come back to it when it's topical. Because if somebody brings up a topic, but we're just like, that's not the topic of conversation at that point in time. Out of order just seems like a little aggressive. So just say, if it's out of order, it's like out of order, right? But you just say, hey, we're going to parking lot this, we'll come back to it we'll come back around to it or something like that.
I think that's interesting. I think there may be two things. There's being out of line.
Mhm.
Here's my grandmother would say, you are out of line. And soap would appear. And then there's being off topic. And it may be worth differentiating between those two and maybe
Yeah.
adding some language to that.
Out
Yeah,
of order is the correct parliamentary
Yes.
No, yeah, I think that's
word.
Yeah.
Or-
The reason we chose out of order is it is the legally accurate word.
Right.
And we are not allowed to silence public comment unless it is out of order to the topic of discussion. And so that is why the word was used. But the chair is always welcome to add more context, such as this topic is out of order, so we will come back to it at another time, or however they would like to handle it. That's just the legality of it.
That makes sense. It's the tone. That makes a difference.
So any other comments, questions, concerns on this area for public comment? Okay, well then we can move on. So for role definitions and guidelines, we wanted to be sure to have a distinction between commissioners, guest speakers, and members of the public, again, to ensure that we have consistency. And also, if time does not always permit for the public to weigh in on agenda items, but it appears that someone is weighing in significantly more, that might be because they are a guest speaker or presenter. And so we wanted to make sure that that wasn't an area of confusion for people. And we did our best to make sure that we also kept the commission as welcoming as possible while still just delineating between the different people who'd be participating.
This is Joaquin. I think it might be worth just emphasizing that, that one of the things that we often get feedback on positively is that we're more informal, and that folks like Linnell maybe aren't guests, but are members of the public who are also subject matter experts who come to these meetings sometimes years into, it's almost like they're a 16th member or whatever, how many there are. And people like that. And we value that. And so I think we really wanted to put that last line in particular in there, the chair or leadership member can create that environment of kind of open conversation and dialogue as they see fit. I know it's important to people, and I wanted to just emphasize.
We haven't seen Linnell in a while.
Yeah.
Spoke to her a couple weeks ago. She's just very busy at work, but she did say that she is looking forward to joining us when her schedule allows. So it's a quick second. That'd be great.
This is Judy. It may just be me, and I'm okay if it is. The last sentence under member of the public. If a member of the public wishes to comment or ask a question outside the public comment, they may raise their hands or be recognized by the discretion of the chair. The sentence above says don't do that, basically. So we're telling them in one sentence, you're only supposed to speak within this section. But if you really want to speak outside this section, go ahead and raise your hand anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't
Well,
know
we're
if you-
saying that
Yes, go ahead.
We're saying that the public comment period is when you can say whatever you would like to say. But if you would like to speak to an agenda item or outside of that, it is the chair's discretion if you get to speak or not. Whereas in public comment, you get to speak for your allotted time as long as it is to order.
I think Judy's point is, why have the first if you have the second? Why have the first sentence if you have the second sentence?
I don't see the conflict with the two, because the first two sentences just describe who a member of the public is. Unless I'm reading something. Oh, we're talking about the first
two
sentences of the last paragraph.
Yes.
I see. I thought we were talking about the first sentences of the first paragraph, and I was like,
No.
I don't see a conflict here. Yeah.
Also, Kelsey has her hand.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I think the intention of this was to so for example, if we're talking about what color slippers are the bunny slippers, and public comment is over, someone wanted to like ask a question. I don't know. I was going with something.
No,
Something
it's
like,
awesome.
what fabric are the bunny slippers made of? Or oh, the bunny slippers actually don't exist anymore, so I don't know if we need to talk about that. So like it's more for like a point of clarification or a point of information. Oh, we should probably use those. So that's a Robert's Rule of Order thing. So point of information or point of clarification might be a better way to word that.
Yeah, this is Judy. I think that would make it sound less like you're saying one thing and then saying exactly the opposite afterwards.
Okay, so edit the second sentence to say if a member of the public wishes to ask a point of clarification outside of the public comment, they may raise their hand to be recognized.
Yeah, so it can say make a point of clarification or ask for a point of clarification or make a point of information.
This is Gretchen. I would keep the at the discretion of the chair
Yes.
in case the
Mhm.
chair finds it too out of hand or too laborious, or that's the 20th time they've clarified the type of fuzziness of the slippers or something, they can say no more.
Who started the slippers?
It's like Deb said, you know, I just hope this is the best meeting of your day.
It really is. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm enjoying it. Was it a low bar though? Well, I mean.
Just give it a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will make that revision. And then is there any other comments on this section?
What power do I have to rein in the comments of members?
Why do you? Right now, none. No, I'm kidding. If it's in regard to fuzzy slippers, absolutely none.
Oh, shoot.
Was that a real question you want an answer to?
Absolutely not.
Okay, great.
Stop having it today.
Just have to make sure.
What's a real answer?
Great, well then we can move on to the next section.
Room setup.
So yep, so this was just to make sure that people knew what to expect as far as the room goes, and also help staff and future commissioners to understand the setup. This really is most important in the special meetings to understand. We have a lovely little graphic, understand the layout of how the room should be set up and what to expect.
This is all right. I do have just some formatting things. I think we could probably opt not to bold the reserved seating at the table, and then I think we can unbold those and then unbold the members of the public. It just formatting wise, it just looks it looks awkward because we've typically just used the bolding to indicate headings and subheadings, and so then adding that into the text.
Seconded.
Okay, sounds good.
This is Gretchen. Did you also want unbolded members of the public? Did you just say that?
Yes.
Copy.
Yes.
Any other
Maybe
comments?
change that from members of the public may be invited to sit at the table instead of may be invited to sit there. It kind of gives that impression like you can't sit here, but you can sit there. Kind of.
Oh my God, mean girls.
Yeah.
Sit with us.
I think just rephrasing that to may be invited to sit at the table.
Sounds good.
And we're on this bullet right here, the second bullet under additional
The
seating.
second,
Up there.
where we remove the members of the public may be invited to sit at the table.
Oh, copy.
So I'm just flagging that we have 9 minutes before we're expected to join, or be joined rather, by the Western students. We only have 2 pages left, but I just wanted to flag that. So I would like a motion to adopt this before we adjourn.
I don't think we can. I don't think we'd be ready to make a motion to adopt this if we've got a lot of edits pending. I would
Make the edits and come back.
Oh, really?
I think we should entertain a motion to execute the edits and then adopt.
Let's
Do we
get there.
need a
Let's-
motion to make edits? I
Yeah,
agree
let's-
that we're not ready to make a motion to approve, but do we need a motion to approve edits?
I think we just hold off on them.
So
motions until next meeting.
To change anything grammatically, we do not need a motion or a vote. That's just a thing.
Well, I just wanted to flag time wise, so let's keep going.
Okay, and so then we just added our information on accessibility and inclusivity, on the name placards and meeting materials, and then what to expect during the meeting and regarding seating.
Two things. One, there's because of the graphic on the page prior, there's an extra space above 2. And that might change with edits, so that's okay. second thing, for number two, if somebody, okay, yeah, it says if somebody asks for accommodations, but do we do like art services or live translation services, Gretchen, for meetings like that? For meetings like this, we do, but if we're in like a public forum, sometimes like there's companies, I'm trying to think of the name of one.
Are you
Yeah,
thinking
like
of like ASL?
No, there's like TVs that'll be set up and they'll do live translation in real time. And sometimes there'll be even like a staff member who will edit the translation.
That's cool.
But there's companies who just offer that software program. And it's like CART is the name I've heard, but I don't know if that's something we've done before. If it could even be something like this,
Yeah.
but I don't know what other options are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a comment on this end of the table about budget. That's true, we have a no new software hold right now. And I don't know that I've seen it.
Me too.
well, there's cart transcription services. That kid's referring to,
Okay.
or like an Otter.
Oh, like OtterBox AI, for example.
There's one main company I'm thinking of that I can't.
Yeah,
We can discuss
okay,
that.
we'll pin that
Yeah.
for next time.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions on this section?
Um,
No?
no,
Okay, moving on. To our final section, which is where we define what a special meeting would be, which is a item we will move up to be sooner in the document, but are there any questions, comments, concerns on this?
Yes, this is Robert. I would just make the comment that we just changed the main heading to just put meeting types because we define general meeting and then special meeting, and then I would just bold those two. Is
Makes
by
sense?
bolding special meetings, it makes it sound like that entire paragraph's about
Yeah.
special meetings.
Delete the
Cool, so we'll
title.
change it to
special
meeting types.
Yeah, so we just put meeting types,
Okay,
and then we would bold general meetings and special meetings.
thank you.
Okay, this is our last section. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Oh, sorry, I moved too fast. Might be interesting to note this, it provided a little bit of a guidance when you're jumping into something complicated. It's like, this is kind of a, you can add more if you find you need it, but it gave a bit of a frame.
yeah, this was actually a major conversation that we had in the process. And you know, what the public process that kind of gave birth to this, we didn't have a set number of meetings, and that was a source of consternation for some, and so this is kind of to what you just said, but it's kind of
Yeah.
a scaffolding for folks. So they come into a special meeting process. If it's a deliberative process, the one we took last spring, they can know about how long it will be. So,
And then the last page is just saying that this is the effective date and this is how we will review and amend them. And that is our process and procedures packet.
right. So I just want to really reiterate my gratitude to those who served on this task force, and to you especially, Ilana, for chairing and entertaining our foibles and preferences, and it's really grateful to you. I think you know, collectively done a really great service to this body, and hopefully will be enjoyed for a while yet. So thank you now for all of you for just now reviewing it. We'll probably accept these edits and review them one more time, and then hopefully this will be adopted. I think it's effective upon adoption, so. Any questions about that? Okay, thank you. And thank you again, Moss, for just walking us through that. Very quickly, in the last few minutes that we have, I see students are coming in. Welcome. Those of you just joining us, we're closing out our meeting here. Staff updates.
I just have one, keep an eye on the location of our meetings moving forward. Reminder, the city hall is going to move into a seismic retrofit. So we'll be somewhere new, stay tuned.
Starting.
In June.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Two announcements or staff update or not staff, sorry. Wait,
I'm not there.
no, sorry, this is a corrections update, sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
ahead.
Hope
Sorry.
isn't here, so we're gonna skip that, but if anyone has something, maybe you can send a calendar out over email, and then quickly member remarks if anybody has any.
Well, that's what we were talking about. Hope announced in our community engagement meeting that Hope is going to college far away from us. So Hope will not be on our Human Rights Commission as of summer.
Yeah, I
She's in
think
Human
her
Rights-
last meeting is July.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Hope is part of the community engagement task force, so that's why I'm recruiting. And I would have a lot of job responsibilities and would like to maybe step down from leadership in June. So we are looking for leadership for that committee. So also why we're recruiting. So if any students live in Salem, you're welcome to join our community engagement committee.
Open to all.
Yeah.
Is it a youth position or is it student? Just curious.
You?
What?
Like, is it based on age or is it like you must be school
It's
age?
based on age,
Okay.
and there's nothing that precludes other people of that age from also being a member. So it tries to anchor, we'll have one person in that age category, but there could be more than one.
Oh, Hope Citizen.
Mhm.
Oh, I think it's 16 to 24.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you all for a robust conversation at 7:30, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. It was very fun listening to the fuzzy bunny slipper.
Oh.
Go back to the police department. We gotta step.
You're sitting at work.
The app is pretty fun.
Oh, yes.
We need cookies with HR.
Okay. A reminder that we're still on camera, we're still live. The students have joined us and are being generous and inviting us to be part of their class. So you're not obligated to stay, but should you want to, please do and be part of the conversation. So welcome, Western students. Hi, Marianne. How are you? Good to see you.
Hi, Joaquin. Hi, Human Rights Commission. Nice to see you all. Happy to be here. And seeing lots of students coming on. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
While everybody's arriving, I want to let everyone new to us know that we are currently broadcasting live on YouTube. Anytime a quorum of the commission is gathered, we want to ensure that public access. So just for everyone's awareness who's just come in, and we still have a quorum, so we'll remain on the YouTube broadcast, just FYI for everyone's awareness. Thank you, Robert.
Marianne, I'm happy to hand it over to you, unless you'd like me to introduce the commission, but I'll default to you.
Well, thank you. We're so happy to be here with you this evening. Appreciate your allowing us to join your meeting and appreciate your making time to connect with the students and share about the project. The purpose of our coming together right now is just getting ready to do this survey. And this class is so great. I'm so excited to have the students in the class this term. They did a homework assignment this week where they all did secondary research, where they went and read and found studies and summarized them, studies that they felt like would be relevant to the work that they will do for you this term. And I just loved reading through the studies they found and the points they brought forward. So they are ready to learn about the Human Rights Commission. I know, Joaquin, that I think you are prepared to just share a little bit about HRC, who you are, what you do. But I wonder, I know we've got a pretty good sized group. And if we do extensive introductions. We could take the whole time, but I kind of like creating a little bit of a community and us on Zoom to know who's in the room and the people in the room to have a sense of who's here. So I wonder if we just take a minute to do some quick, just kind of around the room, around the Zoom introductions. If people could just say their name, their pronouns, and a hello. And then Joaquin, I would love to have you just share a little bit about the Human Rights Commission. Does that work?
That feels good to me.
What if we just do quick introductions in the room first?
Sure. I'll get it started. Welcome, and thank you for being willing to cooperate with our public meeting laws here in Oregon. There are laws that keep us accountable, and thank you for being a part of that. My name is Joaquin, and I am the chair of this commission. I've served here on the commission for 30-something years. So this is my third or fourth survey now. So thank you for what you do.
Everybody, my name is Robert Marshall. I am the vice chair of the Human Rights Commission. I use he, him pronouns, and I want to say I'm coming up on about 2 years being with the HRC. So
I'm Judy. I only recently joined the HRC and I'm loving it.
My name is Kate. I use she, her pronouns, and I just finished my first year, so I'm in my second year on the HRC.
My name's Celine. I use she, her pronouns, and this will be, I'm coming up on the end of my first year.
Christina, I use she, her pronouns, and I just started on the commission in December.
Hello, my name is Kira Pressy. I use she, her pronouns, and I have been on the HRC for a little less than a year.
Gretchen Bennett, staff liaison to the commission, she, her pronouns.
Awesome. Kelsey, you're here on Zoom with us. Do you mind going next?
Not at all. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Murray. I use she, her pronouns, and I have been on the commission for a little over 4 years.
Awesome. What a great group. Did we miss any of the commissioners or folks from HRC?
No.
Great. Okay. I'll introduce myself, Mary Ann Bradshaw, she, her pronouns. So lucky to teach this class and partner with the Human Rights Commission on this project. And students, I'm just going to call you out in order I see you on my screen. So we'll go Israel, Keating, Trisha.
Sweet. So you just want us to kind of introduce ourselves and say this. Okay. Sweet.
Name,
Israel
pronouns, and if
Miles.
you want to add something, feel free.
Sweet. Just Israel Miles, and this is my first year in the program, and I'm excited about tonight's meeting. So.
My name is Keith Hinckley. This is my second year in the program, and nice to meet you guys.
Donald, she, her pronouns, and this is my final quarter in the program and really excited to do this project.
We do have several students that are coming right up, getting ready to graduate. So let's see. Carl, Jordan, Hannah, you're up.
Hi everyone, my name is Carl. This is my second year in the program, and this is my first time joining the class meeting, so hi to everyone.
Hi everybody, I'm Jordan. This is my third term in the program, and I use he, him pronouns, and I'm just excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Hannah. This is my final term of the program, and I just wanted to say thank you guys for your time this evening.
Thanks, Hannah. And then Harper, JJ, and Lourdes.
Hi, my name is Harper. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm just excited to hear a bit more about what you guys do.
Hello, I'm JJ. This is my last term in the program, and I'm excited to learn from you guys today and hear more about what's going to happen throughout the term.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lourdes Salazar, third term in the program, and I go by she, her pronouns.
Thanks. And our last three students, Amelia, Andre, and Katie.
Hello, my name is Amelia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Hi, I'm Andre Jackson. I use he, him pronouns. Just excited to hear about the program.
Oh, Katie, we weren't hearing you. Can you start again? I think we're hearing you now.
Okay, good. Katie Marshall, she, her pronouns, and I'm actually an ed tech
major, and this is my last term.
You were a little quiet, but it's Katie Marshall, Ed Tech major, last term. Great introductions. What an awesome group. Thanks everybody for being here. Joaquin, do you mind sharing just a little bit about the Human Rights Commission? Give us
Sure.
all some context.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for being here, and to you, Trisha, JJ, Hannah, Catherine, congratulations on completing your programs. That's very exciting. Hopefully, will be a good part of the closeout to your educational experience. Yeah, thank you for being here. So we are the Human Rights Commission. We are a public body that is made of volunteer members that are appointed by mayor and council here in the city of Salem. And we are actually we as public bodies, boards and commissions of the city are a big part of how city government serves its constituents. I think last year there was like 10,000 plus hours of volunteerism happening at the city, something like that. I mean, some really high number in the thousands of hours. And so as you may know, if you are here local to the Mid-Valley or live in Salem yourselves, the city is going through some austerity measures and its budget problems, and the staff are resilient, and unlike any other, Gretchen's probably really up there in terms of her excellence, but we also work a lot on our volunteers. And so that's how we come to this work. And we all come from different backgrounds. We all live or work or are in some other way engaged in Salem. And we serve 3-year terms that are renewable at least once. And we're, I think, 13, 14 people strong. We've had this great partnership with Marianne and her class for several years now. And so you're part of this tradition of partnership where we come together and think about how do we reach people in Salem to help inform us as a commission, but also actually city councilors and the mayor make decisions about what's important to them and how they want to prioritize city resources, limited as they are. And in an austerity environment, that actually is an increasingly important and nuanced conversation. So thank you for that. To give you an example of what that means in practice, one of the main takeaways that we had from last year's survey was places like the library, places like parks are areas and locations in Salem that people feel that they can belong, that they can be themselves, that they can be in community with one another. There are also areas that happen to be on the chopping block budgetarily in the city of Salem. And so there were more than 1 or 2 counselors who mentioned our survey being a big part of their calculus when they're looking at how to allocate funds. And so know that the work that you're doing, both in development of the survey and our collaboration here in the next coming weeks, will have an impact on not just policy decisions, but more importantly, people's lives and how they engage and find community here in Salem. So I always say during these kickoff meetings, and I have a couple of years now, thank you for your service to this city and for your work and partnering with us. I think I'll close out by saying that we're really grateful and excited and happy to answer any questions that you may have about the commission. And I don't know, I think that's from my part, that's all. So.
Can I ask you, Joaquin, to comment? I know you have some specific within the Human Rights Commission, some specific committees.
Yeah.
Can you list for us which those committees are?
Thank you. Yes. So we have a couple of standing committees and one task force two task force, one that's just sunsetting and one that's just starting. So in addition to our general meetings, which meet monthly, which is what you're a part of right now, we have monthly meetings. We have the Community Engagement Committee, which is what, I don't know who's been involved in that, but Marianne is meeting with Kate, who chairs that, and the folks of that members of that committee to develop this survey and kind of plan for it, process it when it's done, digest it, help it be successful when it's in the field. So that's one committee. We have a longstanding committee, the LGBTQIA+ Intersectional Rights Committee, that focuses on queer issues in Salem. It's been a longstanding committee. We just sunsetted a process improvement task force, which kind of has taken a hard look in the last half a year around how we could do better as a commission, how we could better serve the public, look at our processes and procedures and our governance. And then we're just going to stand up here a new task force, the Disability Rights Task Force, which is going to be taking kind of a high-level view of kind of the status of accessibility and inclusion for this disability community in Salem for the next 6 months or so. So very busy, big time commitment, mostly from our staff person. And so we're just really grateful for the engagement of our membership and the public.
Wonderful. Thank you. Our next topic is going to be more specific about the survey, but I did want to pause before we go there and just see if any of the students have questions about the Human Rights Commission in general, objectives, what you do, what some of the decisions you're working on. Anyone have a question they'd like to ask, not about the survey, but about the Human Rights Commission and their work in general?
I guess I have one question. You talked about the Disability Task Force and that's something you guys are going to be starting and doing within the next 6 months. Is there anything else going on throughout this next calendar year that is new that you guys are doing, or is going to be your main focus during this next period of time? Like, what's on your docket?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, the answer is yes. There are other things. So outside of the task force, we're hoping to have several community forums. One is partnering with our healthcare providers in Salem to kind of think publicly about how we better serve the queer community in Salem as healthcare providers, as local governments, as community partners. So that'll be a public forum that's happening soon, or in the next calendar year, to use your timing. Another is a public forum about citizenship and immigration here locally. What resources are available to folks who may be experiencing kind of anxiety in this period based on their status. We have annual events like Transgender Day Remembrance. We table pretty robustly in the community at Capitol Pride, other events. So we are in and around the community very often. We had recently a homelessness town hall where we brought community partners and service providers together in the same room with folks experiencing houselessness and members of the public to learn about what's going right and what successes we're having in Salem, as well as things that we could do better, and kind of have public conversation about houselessness in Salem from a kind of a person-centered lens, as well as kind of the policy successes. The survey is a big part of what we do every year. And then on a day-to-day level, obviously we meet monthly, but our staff person, I keep highlighting her wonderful work. She is the person who really engages with public directly. So if someone experiences a hate or bias incident, bias crime in Salem, obviously there's remediation through the police force, but they're sent over to Gretchen. And Gretchen helps facilitate remediation, rehabilitation if it's to be found, restitution if it's to be found, and that varies across a whole scope of things. It could be employment discrimination, something someone faces at a restaurant, something that happens in their neighborhood at a school, you name it, it comes to Gretchen. And so that's kind of day-to-day work. Some important things that we've done in the last 18 months, 2 years has been our big effort to, I guess more than a couple of years now, but 3 years now, to make housing status a protected class in Salem. So one of the kind of frontier issues that Salem and cities like Salem around Oregon and really the West Coast and the country generally is around houselessness. And so there are a lot of causes and challenges, solutions to houselessness, namely housing and housing policy and housing production. But from our perspective and within our scope, we think about how do we ensure that people's rights are protected? How do we better serve these people who are our neighbors here in Salem? And so it's important to us to institutionalize protections for folks in Salem. So that's one major way that we've impacted policy here in Salem recently, and we're always finding ways to do more things like that, whether it's, again, policies, culture changes, or actual changes to our city ordinances and city policies. And again, the survey is one way to learn about what's top of mind for other folks in the community and kind of guides us in that decision-making process as we make recommendations to policymakers.
Wonderful, thank you. Gretchen, I wanted to go next to just looking at the survey, and if you might share a few comments around what we've done in past years. I know Joaquin has shared some things about how you've been able to act on learnings that have come out of the survey. And before I put you on the spot, I did just want to check with the students if there were any questions in general still about the Human Rights Commission before we move to Gretchen and the survey. Awesome. What a great introduction to the Human Rights Commission, Joaquin. Gretchen.
Yes, absolutely. It's been fun to watch it evolve. Its very first year, I think the commission was kind of interested if anyone, kind of two main things, and Professor Bradshaw, correct me if you remember it differently, but they really wanted to know how prevalent is discrimination in Salem, and has anybody heard of us at all? Like, they were anxious that, gosh, we're here to help, but if nobody's heard of us, no one can get help, and then we don't know they've been discriminated against, and so we really need to figure this out. And so that was really its origin, that, as I remember it, that's kind of those two threads. And then
you nailed it. I mean, I think we called it like an awareness study the first year or two, just like, have people heard of the Human Rights Commission?
Yeah. And then they were really getting focused on, okay, so how do we, so there was a number, like this many people had heard of us and this is how they'd heard of us. So they were really looking at it from a standpoint of how do you spread the word? Like they noticed people had really heard about us when they'd gone to an event and saw us at a table. So I remember that led to this internship project at Willamette, where Willamette students really dissected how to do a table that's effective, down to the how do you lay out the materials on the table, how do you have conversations with people at an event. It was very dialed in on engagement, awareness building kind of stuff. And in the past couple of years, I think the commission was recognizing the title discrimination or Human Rights Commission could end up causing a percentage of Salem to not respond. People would just self-select out and say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with me, so I'm not that interested. And the commission wanted to try to get it to be as broad of a voice as possible. They were getting some critique that, well, the only people who fill that out are people who have a beef. And so therefore, it's not really reflective of the overall city, and you're overstating the problem because that's your respondents. And they were facing some critique along those lines, and started to think about how do we talk about the survey in a way that would entice anyone in Salem to fill it out. And maybe also reflect that, oh, they've seen or personally experienced things that might not be right top to mind. So this step into the word belonging started to mature. Okay, well, we're interested in, do people belong? Do people feel welcome? Do people feel a part of their Salem? And so it's been interesting to watch us start to wrestle with that. So Marianne, does that get at your question?
Yeah, I'll share. When we were calling it the discrimination survey, it had been in field and we were getting ready to close. And we had just such an overwhelming majority of our respondents identified as female. And I was like, we've got a few more days. So I went to my husband and my son, who was 18 at the time, because our respondents need to be 18 and up. And I said to my husband, I was like, you've got to do my class's survey. We need more males. And he looked at me, he's like, this discrimination study? He's like, you don't want me. I'm a white male. I'm not who you want to do this survey. I was like, you're exactly who I need to do this survey, because I don't have enough males who've done it. And so it kind of, we were noticing when you send this out and say, oh, do the discrimination survey, as Gretchen articulated, some people are like, that's something I'm really interested in and motivated to give some time and give some feedback on. But the goal has always been to have every walk of life, every kind of voice participate in this. And then we're going to slice and dice the data and compare subgroups. So we want everyone to feel invited. And it's been, I think, important to reflect on how we label the survey, how we distribute and invite folks to do it. And the challenge is, because we don't have a big budget, I used to do these kinds of studies for P&G and I had a great big budget. And so we could, make sure that we had a rep sample, and we're not going to have a random sample of all of Salem. So we just need to be aware and do the best that we can. But I do think the label of the survey, discrimination survey to a belonging or a sense of community, it's just important to be mindful of the decisions that we make and how that impacts who opts in to do the survey. Yeah. Questions about the project itself, either historically, and then maybe let's start. If there's questions about what the HRC has done in the past, bring those forward. And then Gretchen, maybe you and I can start just by sharing some comments about thoughts for this year. And I'd invite any of the commissioners, I know you've all seen the questionnaire, if there are things you want to highlight for the students in the plans for the 2025 survey that you feel like are especially important. So before we go forward, any questions looking back, the surveys that have been done in the past, and questions from students about what's been useful or important or significant?
A quick question. Sorry,
Yeah,
Trisha.
please, Israel and then
Should
Trisha.
raise my hand. It's not a very specific question. Maybe you guys could help me get a little more clarity. That with Salem being the capital of Oregon, does that change how you guys do things at all, compared to other human rights commissions, like let's say Portland or something like that?
That's a great question. Not that I've discovered. I've over the years been in touch here and there with members or staff of different commissions, and we seem to have a lot in common. And we don't have any unique role or scope because we're the capital city. People sometimes call and assume we do, but we don't.
Gretchen, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I saw an article that Salem's Human Rights Commission was a very early one in Oregon, that we've had a Human Rights Commission for a long time. So you guys are part of a pioneering tradition.
That's true. We're one of the first, and we were started in the mid 1960s.
Impressive.
Yeah, if anyone's really curious too, I can send it to you. Our historic planner at one point did some research and recorded a radio interview about our history. So we have that new recording now.
Oh, send it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do.
I would love to hear it. Yeah, thank you. Trish, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just wondered, as Joaquin mentioned from last year's survey, found out that libraries and public parks were a huge area that maybe people didn't know about, were so important to the community. And so I was wondering what other conduits or outreach does the HRC attend? Like, do you ever, are you invited, or do you go to, HOA meetings or church groups, or kind of what avenues are you doing for outreach to spread the word about your work?
About our work, Trisha, in particular, or the survey in particular?
I guess more probably about your work, and then how maybe could that be piggybacked to inform the survey or have potential to reach stakeholders for the survey?
Yeah. Anybody else want to answer this question? Huh? I was gonna let one of the community engagement members answer this question.
I think Selena is a good example though. Not to put you on the spot, but you're really involved in your.
So typically, Kate's going to be doing her presentation next Monday. And that was sent out to a lot of different nonprofits, maybe some neighborhood associations in Salem, among other people, based on the connections that we all have on the commission. I reached out to some people, and I have one person, he spoke to me yesterday, and he's like, I'm trying to get to the meeting on Monday. First, I spaced, and I was like, what are you talking about? But I was like, yeah. And so we reach out to our different partners. For example, Joaquin lives in West Salem. I don't have any connections there, but a lot of us live in different parts of Salem, so we all intersect somewhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's To kind of expand on that, a lot of us that are serving in this body are also professionals in and around the area. So we've been able to build a lot of relationships. You know, me, for example, during my day job, I work in housing and homeless services and work for one of the largest anti-poverty organizations in the Salem area, as well as the Mid-Willamette Valley. And so we leverage kind of our professional relationships to kind of really push the agenda and the information of the Human Rights Commission, as well as hearing their insights, seeing where we can where those intersections cross, where we can work together to advance human rights issues in the city of Salem. And we're also always looking for opportunities to either table at events or to get involved. Most recently, Gretchen, myself, and another member used to serve on the city council was invited to kind of just speak with a group of Willamette University students. It was kind of just like a very small, intimate conversation. We're always seeking out opportunities to just really get involved in the community to share the mission and the work.
I mostly stay at home. But maybe in a kind of by way of an adjacent comment about the survey, we have previously, and for every year that I've been a part of it, it's my fourth or fifth survey, as I said earlier, we have focused on certain demographics because we know we want to hear from them. What do I mean by that? Well, we know that housing and houselessness is a major challenge in Salem, and we want to hear from those experiences in particular. So again, every year I've been a part of, we've had an overquota of folks experiencing houselessness, and we've had intentional outreach with our community partners. Students and members of the commission and staff and our community partners have gone out and literally by hand help folks, complete surveys. Last year was an even more robust effort on our part to reach a more diverse group of people. We went to Micronesian community churches. We went to May Day to reach maybe more Latino community. We partnered with my employer who put out I think it was reached a couple thousand people on their email list who are Spanish speaking and indigenous farm workers, and got them to fill out the survey. And so things of that ilk are also come to mind. So there are intentional folks we want to hear from, as well as actual demographics that we overquota in our survey, for instance.
Great, thanks.
Keating's hand is up. I just want to highlight a couple priority populations. Joaquin mentioned folks who have experienced homelessness, Micronesian Islander and Spanish speaking or Latinx folks. And I know LGBTQ task force and disability task force. So I have in mind, those are priority populations. Would you agree, HRC, they are priority populations this year? And are we missing anybody? And then Keating, I'll come to you.
You're getting nods, Mary.
Yeah, I would agree, Mary.
Awesome. Great. Keating.
One quick question. So for the counties, because how Marion County and Polk County works, how it's kind of split down the middle of Salem, do you guys focus on one side of the county more than the other, or is it kind of just general?
We service all Salem residents.
Yeah, all Salem residents, okay.
And those who work in Salem and may live outside of Salem, or who may spend time in Salem. That we were very specific about that in years past on the survey. If you find yourself in Salem, either through work or life, we want to hear from you.
Okay. Thank you.
I prefer Polk County.
Our West Salem representative is going to champion Polk County. That's fine, Joaquin. Great. Yes. So thinking about the 2025 project, anything folks from the Human Rights Commission want to flag as particularly important, or especially you're curious about this, or you've got this decision you're working on and looking for information like that? Anything that you want to say to the students? Hey, this year, please give us this or that.
No, I think we've done a lot of work already. This is Kate. We've done a lot of prep work with Mary Ann, so I think any of our comments have already been captured. And in the questions that are there right now. I think one thing that's been clear over the last couple of months is just being really open-minded and considering all levels of ability. So I actually even have a note that we talked about making sure that there would be accommodations if people need accommodations to take the survey. And we have this presentation on Monday on the 14th. And I have like a placeholder for like contact someone if you need accommodations or help taking the survey, and I'm not even sure like who to put down for that. Oh, it's Gretchen, never mind. It's Gretchen. It's always Gretchen. But one and out, it's Gretchen. But you know, that it has been a big focus as we start the disability task force or what is it actually called?
Disability Rights Task Force.
Thank you, Disability Rights Task Force.
Call it what you wish.
But that is important. So we even talked about like how in one of the questions, like we listed, I remember the exact wording, but it was like physical disabilities. And I think we listed it out a little bit more than we have in previous years because we're starting to think more about those things this year than maybe we have, or have more representation this year than we have maybe in previous years. So I think that's one difference. And then the language, Marianne, we've talked about the sense of belonging language. But you could actually explain that better than I could. So I would hand that back to you to explain, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'll comment actually on both of those great points. Thanks, Kate. And other folks from the HRC, if you just can be queuing up if you have something else you want to say to the students. In past years, we did in the demographics section ask a question that simply said, do you have a disability? Yes, no. And respondents could say, you know, I prefer not to say, or leave it blank. But this year, the commission has asked us to shift that question a little bit. And it's worded now, do you feel that you have a disability? So even if someone hasn't been officially diagnosed, but they are living with a disability, they can say yes. And instead of simply a yes, no, it is yes, I have a mental disability, or yes, I have a physical disability, or yes, I have both a mental and a physical disability, and then no. And so in past years, we were slicing the data by just yes or no, and we saw a lot of intersection. I mean, it was like over 70% of our respondents experiencing homelessness said yes, they had a disability. So looking at kind of those overlapping, intersecting demographics, but I think being able to split the data, not just yes or no on disability, but we'll have 4 now. So I think that's great. And then the community belonging, we asked a question like, do you belong in Salem, or do you feel like you belong here? Do you feel a sense of belonging? And we found that we went in person and talked to people about it, that the question was kind of received differently than we had expected. And people got very defensive, like, I was born here and I'm not welcome. I'm not, but I do belong. Yes, I belong. And so instead of scoring on this feeling of belonging and a sense of community and connection, we had some people who were saying to us, I'm not treated well, I don't feel welcomed and included, but I belong here. And so that particular question, when we were trying to analyze the data, we wrote it thinking it was like a sense of belonging, a feeling of belonging, and that people who felt not welcomed would say, no, I don't feel a sense of belonging. I don't feel welcomed here. But instead, we had people telling us, I'm going to score that really high because even though other people don't think I belong, I know that I do because I live here, because I was born here, because my family's here. And so the shift to this year has been to a sense of community and focused more on that feeling instead of, you know, do you belong? And I think especially when you think about questions of immigration and people like citizenship, I want people to talk about their feelings of connection and welcome and community and not like, do you belong? When I think everyone who's here, I want everyone to feel like they belong. So students, as we talk about the questionnaire over the next week or two, the sense of community questions are different this year than other years. And some of the questions I'm going to tell you, we're not changing those. Like, that's how we've asked them in past years. Don't touch them, leave them exactly how they are. But the sense of community questions, we have intentionally like explored some ideas and then are hoping this week really that you guys will do some reading, some thinking, some, talk to your friend and your neighbor and your coworker and help us shape especially that section. So great. Thanks, Kate, for those great points. Other folks from the commission have a, hey, students, make sure to pay attention here, or this is a part of the survey that's really important to me, or something different this year that I'm looking for, hoping for? We'll give you a second, and then students, I'll invite you to ask a question or two.
I think I just wanted to reiterate what you led with, Marianne, which is, and maybe I'll distill it into three things. We are, actualizing this disability task force. I personally would want to hear what folks' experiences are in the city to help inform that work. But the task force meets for the first time later this month, so we're gonna have a couple of meetings, and then we'd be able to digest information potentially together once the survey is gone into field, and you perform your wonderful analysis and you report back to us. That would be generative. The overquota rather of the unhoused community, also very important. And then just given our political landscape, the immigrant community, in particular the farm worker, Spanish speaking, migrant communities, would be of high value to us at this time as well. Speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the commission, but I think that aligns with our priorities as they stand tonight. So also, Kelsey, I didn't see your hand. I apologize.
Yeah, Kelsey.
That's all right. I think this is more for our reporting or analysis. I know for the LGBTQ plus committee, it was super helpful when we were able to cut the data to see what respondents who said, yes, I identify as LGBTQIA plus, to kind of see what their experiences were. That was really helpful when we were kind of identifying our goals for the next year. So I think just looking for that, how we're able to cut that data is super helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelsey. Students, any questions for the Human Rights Commission? Thinking specifically about the survey and this year's projects?
Professor Bradshaw, this is Gretchen.
Yeah.
One of the things I always appreciate is folks' awareness of the way the data is coming in is a self-report of one's experience, one's lived experience. We don't have the opportunity to investigate, vet, clarify, verify that data. Anything that comes to us is all public record and can be received and shared broadly in the community. And so I'm always looking for a sensitivity around that and appreciate that to be kept in mind as information comes in. We can't control the raw data of what's said, but we can try to help frame it. You'll notice probably with your professor's guidance how some of the questions are asked, and we appreciate when your analysis and report comes back that's kept in mind. We also, the commission usually chews on your analysis and thinks about your recommendations that you provide to us, and then shows up at the mayor and council meeting a couple months later to say, hey, this is what we're hearing from the survey from the students, and this is our initial thoughts and reactions to that. So just wanted to give you that awareness of that public environment that we're in.
That's so important. Thank you, Gretchen. A couple years ago, the Human Rights Commission does work very closely with the Salem Police Department, and there was a suggestion to add a question about bias crime and comfort in reporting that to the Salem Police Department. And Gretchen, the first time you sent that to me, I looked at it, I was like, oh, does the Salem Police Department know about this? And if the data comes back and says, people aren't comfortable or they've had a negative experience, the last thing we want to do is put out data that is going to get somebody super defensive, and instead of being productive and actionable in a positive way, if it puts up fences or barriers, like this is not about making anybody look bad. This is about understanding potential pain points so we can overcome barriers, or understanding where things are going well so we can do that more. And I love that our Salem Police Department was like, we want you to ask that question. And Gretchen did take the question wordings a little bit different this year. It's around likeliness of reporting instead of comfort in reporting. And Gretchen, I know you had a conversation with the Salem Police Department about that, but I think that's such an important principle in doing research, to have the stakeholders aware of what you're asking and want you to ask it. I sometimes ask people before I do a study, like, if the data comes back and says this, like, are you going to do something about it, or are you going to want to just bury it? And if someone is like, oh, well, then we would just, I'm like, then maybe we shouldn't do the study. But so to be an environment that's very public, we want, our partners to know what we're asking. And then we also need to be mindful as we report those things. You can slice and dice the data, and if we get down to such a small sample size that it's not meaningful, but it's, someone could say, oh, that's, this one family who lives over there. I mean, that's not good research practice, but it also could then embarrass somebody. Or if we're calling out a partner by specific name, we talk about places people have experienced discrimination, and we're not looking to highlight something from the comments that makes somebody look bad. We're trying to understand the data and aggregate so that we can make our city a more welcoming, livable, inclusive place. So I appreciate your flagging that, Gretchen. Thank you. Okay, a question or two from the students?
Not a student.
I'm not a student.
Or another
Not a
comment from the
student.
room? Most welcome. Yes,
I have
completely welcome.
2 clarifications for the presentation on Monday. Do we have final dates for the survey when it's live, Mary Ann?
So our target is very quickly coming, and that is April 21st. It is a bit of an optimistic target. We will close field on May 14th. And next week at class, the students and I will kind of finalize their recommendations. And part of the hang up is the translation. If we say, okay, we've discussed all this a week from today on April 16th, we're going to get that programmed and implemented. We're not just fielding the survey in English, which is awesome that we can field it also in Spanish, Chuukese, and Marshallese. But once we have all those pieces, then we will need to circle back with the translators. And I do know the folks who've completed in the past in the Micronesian Islander languages have really found the survey thanks to very specific outreach. So I would say to the commission, I'm pretty comfortable if we have the English and the Spanish to begin circulating it, but I would ask Jackie's group and the specific groups we're going to outreach to Pacific Islander populations to make sure we've got those translations up first. So I can circle back with you, Kate, on kind of how those dates are looking. It will not be before April 21st. And Joaquin, maybe some of the Spanish translation is up to kind of your timeline, but the 21st, the 23rd, but Gretchen, if you were going to the City of Salem communication team, I would say tell them to post it like the 28th, because that still gives us more than 2 weeks through those channels.
Okay. All right, sounds good. And then we talked about very briefly in our meeting tonight about the language of gift cards and how last year we offered like a $25 gift card raffle. And then I briefly even mentioned that sometimes in certain languages, the term drawing or raffle might not make sense too. So just being careful about that. But Gretchen mentioned that your class is working on trying to mitigate bots basically from taking the survey, earning a raffle. What is a bot going to do with a gift card? Give it to a human.
I don't think the bot wants the gift card. I think whoever programmed the bot wants the gift card. But yes, it actually really is a challenge with any online research, and just that gift card label is really enticing. And so I've written some language, just like a $50 Winco card, to not even say gift card. And maybe that would decrease how enticing this looks to bots. And, Gretchen had kindly offered a Fred Meyer card, but Fred Meyer is national. And I said, what if we do Winco that has a much smaller geographic footprint? So maybe somebody who lives in New York or Florida is going to be like, Winco? Well, I'm not going to program my bots to try for that gift card. We don't even have that here. So hoping that and students, we will brainstorm around this further because Qualtrics has some anti-bot tools, but I do think that the gift card phrase, that there's just people, they've got stuff crawling the internet looking for gift card opportunities, and we want to do everything we can to not entice them, but it's a balancing act because we do want to motivate local people to actually give a few minutes of their time and do this survey. And some people, they don't even enter the raffle for the gift card, but last year it was about 2/3 of the people who did it entered the raffle. So it is, and some of them may have still done the survey without the raffle, but I think saying, there's a drawing, we have a donor who's given these gift cards, and you do have a donor this year who will give the gift cards, because I don't want city funds. We've had people say, why is the city giving money to do this survey? So you can say you have an anonymous private donor who's supporting the students' research effort and has provided the donation for the cards. And I do think if it says a $50 Winco card, that most local people would assume that that is a gift card, even if we're not saying a gift card. So I am happy to have a drawing or a raffle. I know Joaquin, I think it was you and Alejandra had talked through the translation a year or two ago, and it seemed like our Spanish translation of the drawing was pretty clear. And we have a translation in Marshallese and Chuukese of how we did it last year. But I think the point is really, I've asked them to pre-test that just with someone who'll go through and click through it, who speaks the languages that it's in, to have that experience and give us feedback. And I'm happy to mention to the translators or the people just kind of doing that beta test, like, can you just make sure the way the raffle or the drawing is phrased makes sense? So I'm happy to do that.
One last thing, we talked a couple months ago about qualitative research and focus groups, and we decided not to do that this year because we didn't have funding. And it takes a lot of time. But if after this survey, your class determines that that's something we should do for next year, and they have concrete recommendations for us, that would be really helpful as we plan for next year's survey as well. So if that adds value to the class and they could provide value for us for next year, that'd be really helpful.
That is super helpful. And in fact, once we get the survey in field, the students have an assignment to do individual depth interviews around these topics of sense of community, experiencing discrimination, what kinds of things increase a sense of community, detract from a sense of community. And the challenge is some of those interviews are going to be with people who don't live specifically in Salem, but I think that there's a lot of benefit for the students in having those conversations in preparation to analyze the quantitative data. But I'm just going to throw that out to the class as you are doing those interviews. If you are like, hey, this phrase or this idea or this question, we'll make sure to bring those findings back as input for next year. And then just so you know, as a commission, we're not doing qualitative to inform this year's quantitative because we'll get that in the field first. But if there are questions that you're like, hey, if you're talking to people about sense of community, can you ask this? And the students, you're going to go talk to your friend, your neighbor, your mom, your coworker. Like, again, it's not going to be a representative Salem group, but I do think from let's get some insights to potentially prepare for future qualitative. Totally open, commission, to your input of what would be useful and interesting. Okay, any student with a question or two before we conclude? We all know what we're doing. We'll just keep learning along the way.
Go ahead.
No, go
Robert.
ahead, man. Go ahead, Gretchen. Sorry.
So from a staff perspective, just one more thing, something the professor just said sparked something for me. I'm so curious what helps people feel comfortable talking about discrimination. We work really hard at trying to make no wrong door, have it be welcoming, have people feel comfortable no matter who they are. And so as you're interviewing people in your lives and as you're looking at all this, any tips you come up with, I know I'd be really interested in learning, and I'm sure I'm speaking for everybody here. Thank you.
Thanks, Gretchen. Robert?
Yeah, I just want to thank all of you guys and gals and students for taking this class. So the Human Rights Commission doesn't have a budget. We don't have any money to be able to field a survey every year and collect very informative data that helps kind of guide our work every year. And the efforts that you guys are taking in this class are really making an impact in the city of Salem. You guys have an opportunity this term to really change public policy in Oregon's capital city. As Joaquin mentioned earlier, we were able to use information from this survey to have housing status added as a protected class in city ordinance. We were able to utilize data from last year's survey to really help inform council's decision or anything regarding budget cuts and public parks and libraries. And so the information that you guys help us collect is really helping your neighbors in sometimes intangible ways. You guys might not necessarily, it's not the same as helping the elderly person cross the street, so to speak, but this data is really helping individuals, and the commission really appreciates it. Council appreciates the information, everything that comes from this. Community partners really appreciate it. So the information you gather doesn't just sit at a table with the Human Rights Commission. This information is being shared broadly with counselors, they're being shared with community leaders that are also able to take this data to help kind of inform their strategic plans for their individual organizations and the populations they serve. So as you guys go out there, please, I encourage you guys to stay motivated, talk to your friends, talk to your families, really encourage them to take the survey, because even just every response is making a difference, and we really appreciate your guys' efforts this term.
Thanks, Robert. Really appreciate all of you. What a great note to end on. And commissioners, I know you've done a double meeting, and students, we've got another meeting. So I'm just going to say thank you for the great time and the exchange of ideas, and it's been really helpful to me. Students, helpful to you? All kinds of heads nods and thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, students, we are going to sign off, and I need you all to go over to the normal class Zoom so that Gretchen doesn't have to keep her computer open for another hour. Commissioners, we'll thank you. We really appreciate your time and input and partnership, and we'll be in touch. Students, I'll see you on the other link. Good night,
Thank you all.
commissioners.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure.